They're actors too. Crazy.
Are you stimulated? Are you entertained? Those are the two questions I have to ask this morning because this is something that we're facing right now as we have inflation that is just going through the roof. The Federal Reserve, they've hiked up the interest rates on the loans that the United States gets from them. So guess who's going to pay that out? Yeah, you guessed it. So I want to talk about those stimulus checks that everybody was dancing in the streets about. And it reminded me of that scene off of Dave Chappelle's show whenever black people got reparations. That's exactly what it reminded me of. You had people out in the streets making all of these stimulus check jokes, and I got my stimmy, so it don't matter, don't nothing matter. And they had the same attitude that they do when they get their income taxes back. It seemed like when people get a little bit of money in their hands that they didn't have to go out and work like a dog for, they act like idiots and don't know what to do with it. How many people got any of that PPP loan money? I'd love to see one person who has some of that money sitting in an account right now or made other money off of that money. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see anybody who took their stimulus check and put it in a savings account and said, I'm going to hold this for a later date. I'd love to see it because now everybody crying about gas prices, everybody crying about this going up and that going up. But when the last administration was giving y'all stimulus checks, oh, y'all was happy. I can't say what I was going to say as an analogy, but y'all was very happy. And so now, a couple years later, we're starting to feel the crunch of what was done back then. And everybody wants to say, oh, Joe Biden got us paying all of this money, and Joe Biden got the gas prices high. And look, I don't even like Joe Biden as a person, as a politician, or any of that. But I'm not going to sit back here and allow people to put that on him when it's very obvious that this is the pains or from action that was done beforehand. We're just feeling the back end results of what was done 2, 3 years ago. And so people always seem to forget that. And the first thing that, oh, whoever's in office at that time, you point the finger at them. Now, that's just like with Donald Trump. When he came into office, he had some issues that he had to deal with, and he did immediately. Now, that's one thing you can say about the man. He didn't sit around and play. If he said he was going to do something, he went and did it as quick as he possibly could, regardless of what people were saying to him. So I mean, I have to give him his respect for that. But you have people who are dragging their feet right now. We've been talking about uh, repaying the student debt. That was supposed to have been a done deal. It's supposed to have been had that done. Student debt was supposed to have been non-existent at this point, but yet and still you still see stories popping up in the new ways. I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it. This is what Democrats do. They drag their feet and they try to drag it out until you lose interest in it or just give up out of frustration. This is the game that Democrats play. And so pick your poison. You want a Republican, you want a Democrat. Either way it go, you're getting the short end of the stick. And so these are the things that we have to deal with. But going back, I like to try to stay on topic. I don't want to get too far off topic. But this all ties into what I'm talking about anyway, because we're talking about stimulation. Yes, those good old stimulus checks. And I can go back into my different platforms and different messages that I was making at that time. And I was stating to people, this anything that's too good to be true, really is too good to be true. And you need to have some foresight about these stimulus checks because this money is coming from somewhere. Where's this money coming from? Okay. And then I also alluded to the point that when the United States creates money that's not backed by anything of value to legitimize it, then it's called fiat money. And that money only causes inflation because that money is being put into circulation and it has no oil to back it. It has no gold or silver to back it. It's just floating dollars. It's like monopoly money put into circulation so that people could still spend and our consumer percentage wouldn't fall, so to speak. And people were okay with that. People are always okay with a handout. But if somebody give you an opportunity to build something for yourself, how many people are really going to grab and take that opportunity? We sit back and we talk about how we're not afforded these opportunities, and we talk about how they just won't allow us to do this and that. And yeah, true enough, there are some obstacles that be in our way sometimes, but it's nothing that we can't get over, under, or around. It's been proven time and time again. If that was the case, then we wouldn't be where we are today. If the obstacles in our way were impossible to get over, under, or around, then why have we progressed nonetheless, despite of, in spite of? So, people are relying so much on the government nowadays, and that's exactly what the goal was to get you dependent upon the government to the point to where you would be willing to give up all of the freedoms that were agreed to in the Constitution that was agreement with the people and the government. It was a covenant. So now they realize that the covenant that they created and agreed to is now hindering what they want to do in this age that we're living in. And so they had to find a way around that covenant that they made with the people. There was a covenant there. We, the people, and we, the people, and the government, we make this agreement and we agree to abide by this. That was what was done. They celebrate it all the time. Independence Day is coming up pretty soon. So yeah, we have some work to do, people, and not the government. I'm not even talking to the government. I'm talking to the blue collar worker, the 9 to 5ers, the the no collar workers, the ones that's down here getting it out the mud, the hustlers. All of us got a lot of work to do, man, because it's very clear that we're being kept in a certain state of mind and a state of being so that a certain system can stay intact. So as long as we keep buying into these free handouts that appear to be free, but really meant to put us in later bondage, later financial bondage, do you understand what I'm trying to get at now? They have to keep us in financial bondage in order for them to be able to exploit us in the manner that they do. And at this point, it's scary how in bondage they have some people. I was just talking to a young man this morning, and he was talking about an entertainer that was telling her fans basically to leave your job. If you're not satisfied with it, leave your job. And people were actually leaving their jobs, just caught up in the hysteria of this entertainer and them really feeling like the message was meant for them, and they get caught up in their emotions and they actually go through with it. And then as that emotion starts to die down, now they start wondering, where am I going to get money from to pay for these bills that's still going to be coming in. um, this artist didn't say that she was going to pay my bills. She just told me to leave my job if I didn't like it. Now what do I do? Well, that artist didn't come out with the part two to the song to tell you what to do afterwards. And so we have to take all of these things into consideration um, when we see these stimulus payments and we see these rebates, when they start talking about giving us money and giving us cash. This is something that the politicians use all the time. But most of the time, they won't do it in like, oh, we're going to give you a check. They'll do it in the form of, we're going to cut taxes. We're going to save you money. So you won't see the money, but we're going, believe me, we're saving you money. And they'll run on those premises to get elected into these positions. And the the percentage of the United States that are eligible to vote, that are in positions to qualify to vote, are not the smartest people. It's a mixture of everybody, just people who have made some good choices in certain areas to put themselves in a position of, I guess you would say, a position of decency, or considered civilized in this country, or considered a um, middle class citizen, maybe. But anything under that is going to be subject to exploitation, because this government has a class system in place for a reason. Somebody has to be exploited. And not to say that the rich are not exploited, because they do exploit each other. But the class that is exploited the most is going to be that bottom class. And that's where about 66% of our country is. 66% of the United States citizens are in the lower class. 33 is in the middle class, and 1% is in the upper class. That's how it goes. And so, in order to keep that intact, they're going to continue to create these issues that is going to cost us money. But in the moment, because everything that we do now is in the moment, no one has any foresight for anything. Everything is done in present tense, without considering anything before or after. And so that's why they make things seem like you have to do it right now. You have to make this decision now. Because if people take time to think it through, then they're going to find a better alternative, or they're going to find that this is just a trick and a con and a scheme anyway. And so they make people, everything is urgent. So they make people feel like they have to make a decision right now. If you don't do this in this time limit, then this is gone. And so you hurry, you feel that sense of urgency. So then now you're not thinking things properly through the way that you would if you had the time to process what is being offered to you. And so we make that mistake, just like people do all the time in signing contracts. Never read the small print at the bottom, because you just don't have time. You're so excited, you're ready to get this going, and all of these things. So you start skipping steps, and you start ignoring the red flags that are being presented and exposed to you throughout the whole entire lead up. Wow, man. We really have to unplug from the matrix, man. We really do. And when we say stuff like that, people think conspiracy theory. Oh, you think that the world is a simulation and this. When I say unplug from the matrix, man, I mean stop being so codependent on the world and the government, man. That's it. And when you start trying to do that, you realize just how connected you are to all of the fabricated things of the world, all of the things that don't mean anything, all of the surface level, shallow things of the world, material things of the world. This is what we are connected to in such a way that is very unhealthy for us mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and otherwise. We've seen and experienced people take their own lives because they don't feel like they're good enough, or people made them feel like they were inadequate to the point to where they were worthless and didn't mean anything to anybody, so it didn't matter whether they were here or not. We've seen people take their own lives because of money, because they put so much pressure on them to be a certain thing or to uh, take care of certain people and make this much money. And if they don't, they are overwhelmed by the grief of not being considered in that upper echelon, or they can't stand the fact that they would have to really fend for themselves and not rely on currency to get them out of most of the situations that normal people have to work their way out of and go through a process to get out of. They couldn't imagine living that lifestyle, so they ended it all because they didn't feel like life was worth living without money and what the concept that we've created to describe success, which is filled with things. If you ask somebody what is success in the United States, any answer that they give you is going to allude to having things. Some people will try to be super deep and give you an answer that's generalized and doesn't really specify anything in particular. But in a roundabout way, the more they start to describe it, the ability to accumulate things is going to come up in their definition of success. I've tested this theory. I put that question out there, and the responses that I got were exactly what I thought they were going to be. And that's not to say that, people are dumb or anything like that. No, this is just the way we've been programmed to be. This is the way we've been programmed to think. And, you know, I don't fault anybody for what they've been tricked to do. I fault people for when they find out that they've been tricked, that they are too lazy to correct that within themselves. They rather, well, I'm going to just go with it because it's too much trouble to try to change this now. That's what I have issue with. And even still, people like that I just don't be around. So I've said about almost 20 minutes worth of stuff. Now, all of this stuff said, I hope somebody understood the underlying message of we're paying extra for those little 600, 1200. I think some people got a $1,400 payment or whatever. And another thing is, if you did get a stimulus payment and you had an outstanding balance, so this is on the first wave that went out. Afterwards, I think they put some safeguards in place for certain people so that their stimulus check couldn't be garnished. But a lot of people, when they got their stimulus checks, don't you know that the government, these different agencies like child support and um, what's it called, IRS, and any other collection agency of reputable reputation, they got their money. They were able to garnish those first checks, and so a lot of people didn't see that money, and they said that people were hurting and people were going through a pandemic and they need this money to survive. But they turned around and gave these agencies the ability to garnish those checks. So it wasn't about people surviving. It was about them. It was about them, man. It's always about them. And we fall for this trick that it's about us every time. How many times is Wile E. Coyote gonna fall for the same tricks? Man, we a bunch of Wile E. Coyotes running around chasing the daggone road runner. We keep getting these Acme products. Don't you know by now that Acme got some products that are defective? Acme got some products that come with no instructions and just here, you take it and do what you do, and whatever intent you have for it, you gonna end up hurting yourself more than trying to obtain your goal or even getting closer to it. But yet and still, we running around here like wily coyotes, buying up all these Acme products, trying to get to the road runner, which we'll never get to, and we'll spend our whole entire life and die chasing after something that we'll never be able to catch. Yo, this is your boy D Mac, man. Y'all know what I say. Sticks and stones can break your bones, but the word can always heal you. I'm out.